Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness, aye. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air. Even the blind see, the deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the crook can walk, boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Our friends, we have to gather wrong, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention, education, liberation, we have to stand strong. Benskop upon the radio, lively up the program, everybody call somebody and let them turn and tune and on the radio and catch the boom song. We boom it up already, we have to boom it up again, expose and reveal him. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the truth. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the truth. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the crip can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the truth. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop.
Yeah, my name is Jasmine Caldata, Francis, Vietnam. And since 1965, I become a voter. And I always place my X next to the cup. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.
Right off the bat, let's start off. Good night to all of you, wherever you are. My name is Mark Benskop. Well, tonight we have a packed night, so to speak. We have veteran trade unionist Lincoln Lewis, also General Secretary of the Guyana Trades Union Congress in Guyana, and we have Tom Anderson, no stranger to you guys. Come on, everybody. You can repeat after me. Tom Anderson for president. Tom Anderson for president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, that is. I'm not sure. Tom, how are you doing? Lincoln, good night. How are you, sir?
Good night. Good night.
I'm good. I'm having a wonderful time here, Mark.
Yeah, really, really glad to have you guys on. Let's start right off the bat. We don't have much time to waste. Donald J. Trump has been elected. Uh, Second term, this is. He's about to start the second term, will be sworn in on January 20th of 2025. But they're going through the transition period as of now. He was president for 4 years. He lost and he came back again. And he gained victory last evening. Let's begin with Tom Anderson. Tom, talk to us about last night, what happened, and the victory of Donald Trump.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for having me on again. I'm, blessed to be here. Thanks for being on with you, Mr. Lincoln Lewis. Love that I'm on with you tonight, and you as well, Mark. So, when it comes to the election, I broke down a lot of the fundamentals and the numbers on it, and clearly there was a huge drop off in voter participation between 2020 and this time round. In other words, the supporters for Joe Biden, they didn't come out for Kamala Harris in the same numbers. Even though she got new registrations and everything else, so many people who came out for Biden did not come out for Kamala Harris. We're talking millions and millions of people. And so the question is, why couldn't she get that enthusiasm, considering that they're going against a guy like Donald Trump, who was saying crazy things, doing crazy things? You would think that his crazy behavior alone would scare Democrat voters into voting, right? Why did so many stay home? Why did so many not participate? And I think the answer is a simple one, and I wrote about it. It's that Kamala Harris, she couldn't connect with these voters. She was unable to connect. And the reason why she was unable to connect, and I'll tell you which voters it is, okay? It was mainly middle class white women voters. That's and middle class and poor white men. She could not connect to them. And you could see for obvious reasons why it'd be hard for her to connect with them, because she's a woman of color, right? But she ran an honest campaign, and she ran a campaign from the heart. And what she was offering to the nation was a career of lessons learned in her realm of the world. And in her part of the world, she's representing minority communities. She's representing the state of California. And that type of honesty, it did not translate to the rest of the country. The rest of the country heard it as foreign. You could hear people complaining, saying, oh, she speaks in word salad. Oh, what she's saying doesn't make any sense. These people, they literally could not understand what she was saying, because she was speaking from a place that they have never experienced. And what do I mean by that? Most white voters throughout America are used to living a life of luxury. The most heartache they get is high gas prices. Okay, basically, that's about it. Everything else they pretty much have. And so when Kamala Harris is talking about, Medicare providing elder care, when she's talking about the government getting involved with child care services, when she's talking about health insurance issues, when she's talking about low-income housing opportunities or affordable housing for Americans, these are things that the white population have never even had to worry about or think about. They've always had cheap housing wherever they are, because they're living out in rural areas where it's cheaper. They've always had their insurance. They've always had everything except for maybe some high gas prices. And so she wasn't hitting them. She wasn't connecting with them. On the other hand, Trump was. And the reason why Trump was connecting was because he was scaring them into voting for him. Okay? What's happening in the world today, and we all have to understand this, technology is creeping upon all of us. It's replacing so many people's jobs across the board. It's causing and creating chaos, and people are feeling that pressure. When you add to that COVID and you add to that inflation, people are getting scared. And these white people were getting very scared, and Donald Trump was amping up that fear to the point of they were going out of their minds, basically. And so that's how this happened. Okay, the bottom line. And what has to happen now is the media, people like us, regular people, we have to get to a point where we can have discussions about the challenges facing us, with the idea and understanding that, hey, there are people out here who have never experienced what our communities have experienced. Because let me tell you, our communities have learned how to deal with an education system that's underfunded and still educate our children. We have learned how to deal with a system where we're not provided the required health care that we need. We have learned how to deal with a system where we're not getting child care. We've learned how to do these things. We have. But these communities in white suburbia, they have no clue. And so they're freaking out. And we have to understand from our perspective that even though we have solved these problems and we have come up with great solutions, we have to translate those things over to people who don't understand them, because everyone's being impacted by the things that our communities have been dealing with for decades, maybe even centuries.
Thomas Anderson there for us. Can't go wrong. Tom wrote, and you can check out his blog, why Kamala Harris didn't connect with voters and why America will come to regret it. We'll get back to that, but a lot of folks are saying, hey, Tom, we agree with you, but let's face reality also. Her ethnicity and the fact that she's a woman played a major factor in last night's decision. Let's get to Georgetown, Guyana. Veteran trade unionist Lincoln Lewis, what's the talk? What's the word on the ground with Trump's victory? What's happening on the ground, sir?
You know, the persons that I've been able to talk with today, a number of persons were not shocked at the results. Well, some were shocked. There are persons who believe that what we have had is a situation where when Trump says, "We make America great again," what they read into the language, the coded language, to say to the white people in the United States that we're gonna make you great and not the country great. They see it more as an issue of white dominance. The message, it was coded language for white dominance. And it is something, while we are far away, many of us are far away, technology has been able to bring the message to you and what has happened. Let me give you an example. And as you analyze it, you observe what has been taking place. Joe Biden said he was the only man who could have beaten Trump, and he's the only man who has beaten Trump. Let us go back. Trump defeated Hillary Clinton, a white woman, right? Popular, come from a strong background or with strong history. She has lost to Trump. Biden came subsequent, a white man. He fought Trump and he beat Trump convincingly at the polls. I believe that the Democrats may have what I want to say is that they have misjudged or miscalculated. If Trump could have beaten Hillary Clinton with that amount of votes, and she's a woman, to put a colored woman against Trump, it was a disadvantage for the Democrats. It may be wrong judgment, bad judgment, in fact, at this time, because I'll tell you what, we believe here that the issue of race, xenophobia, and a number of other things played out. Because while you may argue that the white voters came out because they didn't connect with Kamala, she didn't connect with him. What argument we have for the Hispanic male coming out in those numbers? When Trump has gone out there with language that demonizes them, they still voted for him. We want to put make reference to Obama and Obama's victory. You see, Obama came not only with a message, but he came representing two groups. He's half white, he's half African. That race card do not apply to Kamala. Don't apply to her. So when the white male and the white female come out against, while you talk about the reproductive rights and all these type of things, Trump has challenged it. He has had it overturned, the rights overturned, but they still voted for it. And the things this guy said on the trail, campaign trail. If Obama had walked with what we call, has been campaigning without a flag on his lapel of his coat, and it was a big issue. The things that Obama has been held accountable, or he could have said, and there are candidates who said less things than what Trump said, and they had to drop out the race. We have had Trump saying all kinds of things about people. And at no point did Trump be held accountable for anything that he has said. Kamala, you heard the message, you heard the news or the whispers, and they made it louder. She don't have a plan. What is her economic plan? Trump says he's going to deal with Obamacare. They asked him what plan he has. He said he has a concept, and they give him a pass. So the pass that Trump could have had, or was given to him, the same standards were not used in determining that pass when you come to Kamala Harris. And that's a problem. And these things mean a lot.
Major problem indeed, Lincoln Lewis, and good night for all of you who are now joining us. Opening remarks here from veteran trade unionist Lincoln Lewis. Tom, room for disagreement there. The things that Trump has gotten away with, a heck of a lot, from the microphone to disrespecting women, disrespecting Hispanics, basically agreeing that people from Puerto Rico are garbage, and all manner of things. 34 convictions. Nobody else. Obama could not have gotten away with that. Kamala Harris could not have gotten away with it. Hillary Clinton could not have gotten away with it. Well, Bill Clinton got away with the cigar in the Oval Office. But are these things only attached to these privileges to only white men? What's happening, Tom?
Okay, so first of all, I want to say that I 100% agree with Lincoln Lewis. Everything he said, spot on, 100% spot on. Where I'm speaking is sort of on the mechanism of the racism involved here, because there's an actual mechanism. Not everyone can wield the racism the way Donald Trump does. Donald Trump is a master at bringing out white fear and getting white people mobilized in a way through racist rhetoric, right? He's a master at it. Not everyone can do what Trump does, okay? And so when you look at the actual mechanics of the racism, I'm looking at the numbers. And so, like I said, I agree with Lincoln Lewis, but when you look at the numbers, it was white women who really did not come through for Kamala Harris. They didn't. Most white women voted for Donald Trump, period. So we can talk about the Latino men, which, by the way, are really white men at the end of the day, right? Most of them are really white, and they're viewed as white, and they're treated as white. And so but when you look at the numbers, it was really white women. And why would white women, and the way that it happened was they didn't support Kamala Harris in the numbers that they supported Joe Biden 4 years earlier. There was something like 13 million less white women voting for Kamala Harris. And so the question is, how did that huge number of white women not show up when they had issues on the ballot with abortion, and you had an open racist and misogynist in Donald Trump and a convicted sexual predator, right? Like, how is it that all these women stayed home? And I'm telling you, it was racism, okay? And the racism that was played was twofold. First of all, Trump played to those women's fears. He scared the hell out of them. I'm telling you, he scared white women like there was no tomorrow. That's why he kept talking about these immigrants, right? Because what he was saying was, what he was basically saying was, hey, you white women, you can't go jogging in your neighborhood because some crazy Venezuelan's going to rape you and murder you. This is what he was doing. And so now you have all these white women fearful for their lives. They're believing that the Democrats are trying to get into power so that they can flood the nation with rapists from Venezuela. This is what they were believing. And Trump kept going at it and going at it and going at it. And so what happens is, of course, he gets a pass on everything. Of course, no one's listening to actually what he's saying because everyone's stuck on the fears that he's stoked within them. He's a master of this, okay? And so, yes, I agree. This was racism. This was sexism, misogyny. But you have to understand that Donald Trump is a master at wielding these things. He's a master at using them as weapons politically, and he effectively did it. And what I'm saying is there's a way to counter this. You can counter it, but you have to be understanding of the people who he's going after with these mental games. You have to understand their position, and you have to approach them the right way. I believe it's possible. I just think that the media and the Democrats aren't really fully aware of how good this man is at stoking the fears of white people through his racist rhetoric.
All right, Tom Anderson there, Tom and Lincoln. Let's listen.
Before we move off from here, Mark, let me just make this point based on what Thomas said. You know, when Biden said that the only person could have beaten him, Trump, because Biden beat him. And Biden won because what you had was two white males that were pitted against each other. And the issue here is that the message was somewhat similar to what Kamala is carrying. She has been talking, well, she has not linked it to Biden, but all these programs that she's talking about is the continuation of the Biden's era. I'm just raising that because I want people to understand the depth of this situation and the consequences that cannot well unfold from Trump's victory. This is a world that we look at as the bastion of democracy. And this issue is not about, Kamala was talking about democratizing a situation, a country, democratizing governance. When Trump could have said, vote for me one more time, and it is the last, and those type of language. And people allow these things to pass. This year was not, and Tom made the point, let me say to you that this was not an election about program and messages. This is a program done right. Race, the election about race. It is xenophobia. It is anti-women. And I say anti-woman because Biden language when he said, I'm interpreting Biden's language. I'm the only person who can beat Trump. What he was saying to her, saying to the Democrats, hey, need a white man to fight Trump because of because of United States, how it's constructed and the day-to-day life and how these people see the world. That made the point. The fears. And I'm saying again that Obama was treated differently because his mother was white and his father was African. In the case of Kamala, it is not so.
All right, point made there by Lincoln Lewis. Can't disagree. In fact, I've heard that argument about President Barack Obama. Tom, you yourself being of mixed race, Caucasian and African American, you probably would have had that sort of experience that Barack Obama has had as well. But moving on, before we get to Vice President Kamala Harris's concession speech, Tom, do you agree that it would have been a big difference if Biden had competed again with Donald Trump? Any difference?
Yeah.
And the outcome, would it have been any different than what?
Well, so it's funny that Lincoln Lewis brought this up because back when they were debating whether or not, to force Biden to step aside, I did a video podcast and I said this word for word, I said, mark my words, if they force him out, they will lose to Trump. I said it. So I knew back then because I said, there is only one guy who can beat Trump, and it's Biden. And the reason why is because, yes, he's a white man. It's two white men against each other, right? But on top of that, Joe Biden, he comes from a perspective and from a place that many of the Trump supporters who he can get scared and emotional, they can listen to Biden and they can accept what he says. So when Biden comes out and he says, don't listen to Trump, he's lying to you, those people will say, okay, Biden's telling the truth, and they'll believe Joe Biden, right? But if Kamala Harris tries the same thing, don't listen to Trump, he's lying, they won't believe her. And they won't believe her because she's not a white man. Straight up. That's what's going on. And so what we're
今天想跟大家一起了解现在的圭亚那副总统巴拉特贾格迪奥所对圭亚那人民带来的伤害跟灾难性的造成，他所做的一切都是为了自己的利益，从来没有为圭亚那百姓着想，或者做出任何能让百姓生活变得更好的事，让平民百姓过上应该有的生活。他凭着自己执政的权力，从1999到2024贪污至少数十亿美金或更多百姓的财产，他让平民百姓受到了非常不公平的待遇跟灾难性的生活。他是个非常邪恶的人，用着自己的特别身份，做着对圭亚那无数伤害的事件，只为了自己的利益。他在中国还有一笔巨额全额高达数十亿美元，都来自于百姓的财产。今天希望大家都能看到或听到他的腐败的一面，让我们一起团结一心，让圭亚那的人民重新开始美好的未来。今天想跟大家一起了解现在的圭亚那副总统巴拉特贾格迪奥所对圭亚那人民带来的伤害跟灾难性的造成，他所做的一切都是为
100 changed their votes. 3 out of 100. That was the difference. That's not many, all right? But when you're doing what Trump is doing and you're playing that race card that he plays so masterfully, and you don't have another white man on the other side who can tamp that down, you can end up in a situation like what we just saw, where Kamala Harris ran basically a perfect campaign. She outraised him in money. She had the better issues. She was right on everything across the board, but none of it could be heard because Donald Trump had all of these people entranced with his racist agenda and his racist message. And the only way to be able to snap people out of that is to have a guy like Joe Biden to get up there and say that, look him in the eye and look in the camera and tell him that guy's lying. That's the only one they will believe is Joe Biden. And that was the difference.
All right, thank you so much, Tom Anderson, and good night to all of you who are now joining us. Have you listened to a piece of what Vice President, presidential candidate Kamala Harris had to say in her concession speech? And then we'll get back to Lincoln Lewis to talk about his take on this Trump's victory being helpful to the PPP, installed PPP regime there in Guyana. Let's take a listen to Kamala Harris's concession speech.
Good. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So let me say, and I love you back. And I love you back. So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve.
JCPenney gives you more home, bigger savings.
Okay, so we get an ad there. That's not our ad, but that's okay. You heard it. Before we get to Lincoln again, in terms of what sort of impact this would have on the PPP regime in Guyana, Tom and Lincoln can also add, any surprise that the Democrats behaved in this manner, in a very democratic way to concede and say, look, America has to move forward. There was no court injunction. There was no threats of violence. There was nothing. Note the difference. Do you think Trump would have accepted defeat?
No, Trump is not going to ever accept defeat. And so the issue here is the reason why the Democrats are accepting is because the Democrats understand this system of government far better than Trump does. Trump has a perspective on our government the same way someone in high school civics class would have on the government. I'm not saying that he doesn't know much, but I'm just saying like his knowledge of it is not the depth that the Democrats have. Okay, the Democrats fully understand all of the levers of government, and they understand all the different facets and all the little nooks and crannies. So they know that if they lose an election, they have so many other ways to fight. It's crazy. They know at all the different levels how to fight, where to fight. They understand that. So that's why they can easily, it's not so easy, but they can get out there and honestly say, okay, it's fine. You know what? He won, and move on. Trump, on the other hand, and his supporters, the reason why he can't walk and the reason why he can't accept defeat is because not only does he not understand, but he can't fight any other way, right? He doesn't have any tools in his chest other than the racism stuff and what he does as a wheeler dealer business guy in politics. That's all he's got, those two things. And so when that's all you have, yeah, you're going to be desperate. Yes, you're going to be trying to use power in a desperate way, and you're going to try to hold on to it and never let go, because there are no other options for someone that is so limited. And so that's sort of what I see the difference between the two sides and why the Democrats can say this, because look, the Democrats in some ways are in a stronger position now than if Kamala Harris would have won, believe it or not. And I can go into depth on that, but America is facing challenges coming up here, some huge challenges. Okay, we've got things out there that deal with COVID in the billions upon billions of dollars that are coming back on us, and I don't know how it's going to be paid. Okay, and so this stuff is falling into the laps of the Republicans now, and they control everything, and it's going to be very hard for them to deal with what we're facing. So in some ways, this may be an advantage to the Democrats if they can hold on and they can continue to operate within the levers of government that they understand, this could be huge for them. So that's how I sort of see this, and that's why I say they're not stepping aside. What they're basically saying is hey, we're going to fight you in other ways, Donald.
Absolutely, and there got to be other ways in fighting him and keeping him in check and holding him accountable. It's got to happen. Cannot have a free reign at all, whether it's on immigration, whether it's on foreign policy. But on immigration, we'll get back to that question. But we move to Guyana. Lincoln Lewis, what sort of impact do you think the Trump administration, the new Trump administration that will be coming in as of January 20th, 2025, a positive here for the PPP, as some people are saying?
Let me start by saying this to you, that in every society, these societies, like United States, like Guyana, there is what you call there are two groups of politics. The political parties approach the business in different ways. In the United States, you have the Democrats that have the big tent approach. A big tent approach where it brings in the lesbians, the gays, the Latinos, the Jewish lobby, varying groups come together to fight an election. So what happens is that you have to listen to other views, other opinions, and see how you can put a program together. When it comes to the Republican Party, it don't have that wide cross-section of views. It's a group of people who understands that, look here, or have a mission to say, look, we must be in charge. And regardless of the circumstances, it is not using the democratic tools to really be in charge, but by any means necessary, we must be in charge. And when we get there, we listen to nobody else. We go with our program. In Guyana, you have the same situation with the current opposition, which approaches a big tent, has a big tent approach. For instance, the major political party in the opposition, the PNC was born out of coalition with John Carter and a number of, W.R. Kendall and all of them. They came together with Burnham and found that party. It was varying views, groups that come together. The party in itself was formed through a coalition of other political parties. So they bring a different perspective. Whereas the PPP has been formed as a PPP, as a one political party. No other civic that they get. So their approaches are similar in nature. And that's one of the things that we need to take into consideration. While the PPP may have removed what you call democratic centralism from their constitution, the decisions that are being made, they are made by one or two persons, and the rest follow, right? You don't find, like in the opposition, you may have varying views expressed publicly, varying views expressed publicly by persons in the opposition. And while people say, well, the PPP, they get the problems and nobody say anything. You can't say anything in there, because if you say anything, you're out, right? That level of democratic tolerance when it comes to the question of managing the politics of the PPP is similar to the Republican Party. So they're comfortable right now. And they're comfortable to the point because let me tell you what, United States have been what we call the world, the watchman for the world when it comes to the issue of democracy, this issue of rights and the rule of law, fundamental rights, protection of those type of things and so forth, right? If you had a problem here, you could have argued it with the West, the ambassadors who are here and the commission ambassadors who are here, the countries, you could have argued with them. You could have gone to UN and you have had some level of support. Now, with the Republican and Trump at the end of it, there's no alternative for you when these guys violate laws here and transgress rights. You can't go anywhere. You can't go to the United States. The only place that I'm able to help you now is to look for new synergies, right? Establishing new synergies and relationship with the progressives that you find in southern countries like Brazil, like on the African continent. A number of country and leaders are now coming out and take some very progressive position. You'll have to look for that. But I'm saying that these guys are comfortable. They are emboldened, and they will want to do a number of things to not only violate laws, because even during the period, remember during that period, when Waddle was taken out, a number of persons you were taken out, extrajudicial killings. It took a long time before you could have had the Western countries coming together to pull the rope on these guys. It is not only now that they're going to violate that, they may move back to the position now where they believe they can take lives with immunity, right? So they're comfortable as far as I've seen my analysis goes on what's taking place. They're comfortable with this new dispensation.
All right, thank you so much. Extrajudicial killings, and a lot of times those in the diplomatic community remained silent back in those days. It took a different turn, though, and I must note, when two African Americans were there as the U.S. ambassador to Guyana. There was John Jones, Ambassador John Jones, and Ambassador Ronald Bullen, that took the bull by its horn, and the drug lords and those others and the Phantom Squad killers and all of those people were on the run. Roger Kahn was captured in Suriname, and I say this just to say that had it not been for John Jones and Ronald Bullen, maybe hundreds of other mainly young black men would have been slaughtered at the hands of the corrupt and murderous PPP regime. Tom Anderson, sir, what is Donald Trump's victory is for the PPP regime?
Okay, so I agree with Lincoln Lewis. He's correct. He's absolutely correct. Okay, that the PPP is very similar to the GOP in the way that they govern, right? Where you have a few people at the top who control everything, and no one gets out of line. No one says anything that would make anyone up top angry, right? And that's an effective way to govern. If you have a strong hand, you have a lot of cash, and you have weapons, and you don't have a heart, and you're willing to hurt people relentlessly, well, that is a way that can be effective. But here's the issue that I see happening going forward with the PPP and with the GOP, especially with Trump in charge, right? When you run an organization, a political organization like that, you have to remember what politics is all about. Political parties are all about representing the people of the land. It's about representation, okay? And if you have a party where only 2 or 3 people are represented, and everyone else just falls in line, then what you have is a situation where the people are not being represented below them. And when the people aren't being represented, even the PPP can fall out of disfavor and lose power. Okay. And so how do they hold on to power when they know they aren't properly representing the people? They do it through fear and intimidation. That's what they do. And that's what Trump does. Now, here's the issue, okay, that the PPP will have and that Trump has and the GOP has. When you organize as a people, when you organize effectively, and you bring to bear the pressure of the public at large, those 2 or 3 people at the top can't handle that kind of heat. Not when it's organized, and not when it's large, and not when they can feel the people down their necks. It's impossible for those 2 or 3 to hang on to power. They can't. They will be too wrecked with fear. And that's the key when it comes to the GOP as well. I write about it in this piece that you have right there, A Surprising Absence, the GOP's invisible wall against women of color in leadership. The GOP has never had a woman of color in leadership in their party, in the history of the party. We're talking about hundreds of years, okay? Never once have they had a woman of color in a position of power. The reason for that is because, as Lincoln Lewis said, they just want a few people in control, and they have to be the white people. What they are running is a white-only party, essentially. Because when you think about it, if they've never had a black woman in a position of leadership, that means black communities in America have never been represented within that party, which means the thoughts and the needs of those people have never come across to the people within the GOP who run this party. Okay. And so what that does is it gives them a blind spot. It puts them in a position where they're running a country, but they don't know what they're running. They have no clue. And when it goes on for generation after generation, they really have no clue. And so that's what we're seeing now with Donald Trump. He's having to use fear and intimidation to hold on to the power that he has, which short term, it will work. Long term, it will fail, especially if the people organize and the people get serious and they make their voice be heard. And so that's how I see this going forward. And I believe that, and I've seen Trump, okay? Trump is a very pragmatic politician. When he sees the people grouped together and respond in a way towards him, whether positive or negative, he moves with it. He's not the kind of guy who will just ignore people standing up to something. He actually pays attention and he will grab onto it to use it to his benefit. He's very slick like that. And so when it comes to Guyana, I really believe that there is a chance, a very good chance actually, if the people of Guyana can organize themselves and with some help from some Americans here as well, that the Trump administration may not be wanting to go down to Guyana and working with the PPP so gracefully and happily. They may see the PPP situation and say, you know what, for us politically here in the United States, we kind of don't want to mess with that. That's not going to be good for us. It's some troubles that we really don't want to mess with. So let's leave those guys alone. That's possible. Actually, that's very possible. So people need to understand that there's some pragmatism here. And on top of that, the GOP and Trump, all he really cares about is the money, the bottom line money. And Guyana has a lot of resources to make a lot of money. And if he feels that the PPP cannot implement what needs to be done on a deal, he won't support the PPP. I'm just telling you, that's Donald Trump for you. So that's what I see playing out here. And those are the possibilities going forward.
Thank you so much, Tom. Of course, the Republican Party may not have had a black woman or a woman of color, but they had a black guy by the name of Steele. And Steele didn't last too long as leader of the RNC. Steele is no longer. Steele has been there. He saw exactly firsthand. And Tom, you know, the rest is history with Steele. He has been talking out. He's not comfortable. Lincoln, you wanted to add something else in terms, because Tom is saying that if the PPP doesn't play by the rules, Donald Trump rules, that is, then the PPP is history. Before you respond, though, Lincoln, The PPP congratulated Donald Trump victory today. The so-called vice president, Jack Deere, did, along with the so-called president, but not a word. The man who happens to be the prime minister of Guyana, Lincoln.
Let me say to you that Tom makes a valid point there. You see, politics is not natural science that you have to do. You have to do the systematic changes. Politics, you can change it midstream. And unlike natural science, if you change the approaches or the system, you'll get something else, not the same thing that you set out to have. In this case here is that what is important is for people to mobilize and energize a movement on the people's behalf. You know, it's not as a let me, you have to understand it. Let me give you something that happens here. The same level, you have to understand the same politics that to a large extent that play in the United States with this here, the same politics plays here. What we have is a situation in Guyana where the two major political parties are supported primarily on the ground of race. But the difference, what happens here, when the PPP talk about inclusivity when they are in opposition. But when they go into government, they shut the opposition out totally. And that is in conflict with the spirit and intent of the Constitution. But the supporters of the PPP supports the PPP doing that. Unlike the PPP, the people in the supporters of the PNC and the opposition, who will say, we believe in everybody working along and we can have the best product at the end of it. So if the opposition is in government, they must include or consult or engage the PPP, which is in opposition. So you see, there are two different cultures, and conscious of that, it is time not only the opposition, but progressive forces who want to see a different politics in this country start the process of mobilizing or putting a system in place to mobilize that we can share in the national pie. We have to do that. To do otherwise is to court disaster.
Thank you so much. Mobilization is the key word. Kamala Harris, in her convention speech, she did say to continue the fight, and that's the kind of spirit, and the fight has to continue now. Tom, let us touch on. That's not what we're going to touch on, but earlier this year, Elon Musk had a phone conversation with Irfan Ali. God in heaven knows what that conversation was about. Elon played a major role in giving Trump and his folks a platform. What may have been this discussion between Elon and Irfan Ali? What's going on here, Tom?
Well, remember, if you look at that date, July 20th, that is about a month after the U.S. government put sanctions on that government official and on the gold issues in
The
Guyana,
Mohammeds. Yeah.
right? And so I'm pretty sure this is one of the reasons why Elon is coming in after those sanctions hit. I would see it that way because clearly, you know, he has connections to the inside of our government. They call it the deep state because he has government contracts with our military, with our CIA, with our NSA, and those contracts give him access to things that no one has access to. And so when you see him coming in a month after we hit sanctions, more than likely he might have had a hand in that. And he's using that as a leverage point in whatever he's trying to do there in Guyana, I believe. So that's how I would view that. And I'm sure the reason why he's talking is because he probably knows that there's some type of lithium deposit in Guyana. There's something there that can make his car company go from the best to the best when it comes to battery powered cars. Or he could also be looking for a new place to launch shuttles into space as well. So those are two things I think he's very interested in. And him coming in after a month of sanctions with his connections with the government tells me that he means business. And he's trying to go in fast and hard to get what he wants.
It looks as though Guyana is up for sale under the corrupt PPP regime. Guyana is up for sale, and the corrupt PPP cabals, they're not concerned about how it looks. All they're concerned about is to ensure that their bank accounts in China and wherever other place they have bank accounts is heavy bank account in China. Barajagde, good night. Tomorrow we'll probably talk a little bit about more about this bank account in China, and we'll talk about an individual that Jagde should be familiar with by the name of Monty. We probably ask how Monty died, but we'll get into that later on. Let's move over to this here. Fears grow among New York City migrants as Mayor Adams vows to work with Trump on immigration issues. Tom, take the first bite of this, and Lincoln will pick up on this fear factor in the immigrant community by Trump. Tom, what's happening here with New York's mayor?
Okay, so first of all, Trump has made it a thing on immigration that he will go and he will use the office of the presidency as a weapon, full force on anyone who tries to provide shelter, amnesty, or anything to any illegal immigrant. He will wield the entire government on top of your head. He has made it clear. Mayor Adams is under indictment, criminal indictment right now. He could really use the support of the next president of the United States to get him off of this indictment. So clearly he's getting in good. He's telling the future president, hey man, whoever you want, I will toss them out. Let's go. In exchange, Adams wants these indictments gone so he can become mayor again. And that's what that looks like to me. Pretty much quid pro quo, man.
Wow. Lincoln, you're a veteran trade unionist, stand up, fight for workers' rights, people's rights, human rights. Trump using his position now and threatening deportation of millions of immigrants. Of course, many of them are illegal immigrants, but many of them have been working in the United States of America, paying taxes. They haven't gotten in trouble in any law, nothing at all. But these are the people who are being threatened to be deported. Lincoln, your take from a human rights and human rights standpoint.
Laws.
Sorry about that. Your mic was muted, but go ahead, sir.
I'm saying in every country, they are run by laws. And if a president, I disagree vehemently with President Donald Trump. from the standpoint that he seemed to be saying that the people's rights do not matter. You know, we have passed that age where we dictate what must happen with somebody. In fact, what we need to do is to give the process a chance to determine whether a person or persons are eligible to remain in the country, rather than you just pick them. You see, I'll tell you this. The United States has to be very careful. In all these countries in Africa that they have base, military base, are they comfortable with the leaders saying, pack up and leave? Or are they comfortable with their people coming to do business in countries like Guyana, Barbados, and so on, and laws are being put in place that can stymie them? They cannot have the bread and eat all. They have to share. That's one of the problems. And Trump do not see, or he's not prepared to respect people who are coming from the South, the developing world, like in Africa, some parts of Asia, the Caribbean, and so forth. You don't feel that we should be respected. But our leaders, do the necessary things to make sure that we are respected as a nation and as a people. What Adam said here, Tom may be correct in what he says. Adams is looking for favors down the road. But Mayor Adams should not be looking for favors to satisfy his own personal objective, while doing things that violate laws and the rights of people. Everybody, wherever you go, you have a right. Even if you go to even if you know there are people who don't know this, you may go to a country and you meet at the airport and you don't have a visa. Under the international convention, you have a right to in transit there if you go to somewhere else. You don't necessarily have to get a visa. You can claim those rights. There are certain rights that exist in this world that we don't demand that they be respected. There are conventions. And in the United States, the issue here of illegal immigrants is that you have to go through the process. And the person who knows best of it is the moderator, Mr. Bentlop.
Okay.
What those rights are, and how we can use them, what the process is, and how it ought to be treated.
Thank you so much, Lincoln Lewis. Lots of folks are worried about this threat. We saw Trump first time as president. There was this visa ban, visa restriction, and banning people from entering the country and so forth and so on. Tom, we saw it. He showed us, he played his card. This time around, people are sensing that he's going to be even more vicious. Your prediction on his threats as it pertains to immigration?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be vicious on that. I just don't believe it. And here's why. In order for him to be vicious, he has to get the people underneath him, the other elected officials on a state level and on a federal level, to be vicious as well. And that's where it's going to fall apart, because if you look at this election, The reason why the Republicans did so well in winning the Senate is because so many Latino men voted for them. Now, I'm telling you, those same politicians who are in office right now because of the Latino male vote, it's going to be very hard for them to be excited, to be vicious, to go after those Latinos in their communities. It's going to be very hard. And by extension, anyone else, because here's the problem. If they only go after people who aren't Latino, who are colored, that even makes it worse. Okay, that makes it worse for them. So you have a problem here politically where Trump may want to be vicious. And yes, his rhetoric was vicious, but in actual practicality, you run into the fact that other politicians, they don't want to be vicious because they want to be reelected. And they're the ones who the local people are going to see being vicious. It won't be Donald Trump going down into Tennessee or some other state, getting the feds to go get people. Oh no, it's going to be it's going to be the governors, local district attorneys, and police officers on a local level who are going to be doing this. And all these people hold elected office. So it's going to be very hard. And then number two is this: the Democrats are going to organize against this. Okay. They're going to bring attorneys in. They're going to make this very expensive. One estimate said that if Trump tries to do the vicious type of deportation he describes during the election process, that it will cost $80 billion per 1 million illegal immigrants he deports. $80 billion. That is such a huge amount of money that I'm telling you, I've seen Donald Trump operate. He's not trying to spend $80 billion to get rid of 1 million people. It's too much money. And so between the money and between the lower level politicians on a local level not wanting to be vicious because they need to be reelected, I find it hard to believe that Trump is going to be really, really bad on this illegal immigration stuff. I just do. I think it's going to be less than what people are thinking. I think most of it is bluster and it's rhetoric. And so at the end of the day, I think this is not going to happen the way people think. And I think he might do some things that seem like they're mean or bad, but at the end of the day, I don't think much is going to change on the immigration issue, in my opinion.
Thank you so much for that. People are uneasy. Trump loosed a lot of ICE agents into predominantly Black communities, including those who don't want to be Black. Queens, lots of ICE agents were raiding businesses, arresting and deporting Guyanese living in Queens and Brooklyn, not just Guyanese, but Caribbean people. Certainly, you've got to be very, very careful that Trump will hire, as he has promised, more ICE agents. And this is not a fear factor. We know what he has done. He has promised to put more judges. He has promised to put more ICE agents. He has promised to hire more immigration officers and so forth and so on. There are some aspects, and I agree with you, Tom and Lincoln, there's some aspects of the immigration sector that he will be very, very cruel with, because the objective is to get some of the colored people out of the U.S. and save, as he claimed, he is white skin. He is white skin. It has a lot. And Lincoln started off the program by saying, hey, guess what? Make America great again might not necessarily be exactly what Trump is saying, make America great again. It could very well be make America white again. Some may argue, and rightly so, that it was never white. Anyways, Lincoln Lewis, your closing remarks, please, as we prepare for the next 4 years, as of January 20th, 2025, of turbulence, lots and lots of turbulence during Trump's 4 years in office, another 4 years in office, lots and lots of executive orders. Your closing remarks, please, Mr. Lewis.
United States and what it does impact across the board. We here in Guyana, recognizing
Yeah, go ahead, sir. We got you.
yeah, recognizing that we have a lot of American companies here, not only Exxon, there are a number of other companies that are being operating here. We have to look from all perspectives how we are going to navigate the influences of the Trump administration. And as I said earlier, we need to begin the whole mobilizing process of bringing about what we want, the change that we're looking for.
The mobilization.
今天想跟大家一起了解现在的圭亚那副总统巴拉特贾格迪奥所对圭亚那人民带来的伤害跟灾难性的造成，他所做的一切都是为了自己的利益，从来没有为圭亚那百姓着想，或者做出任何能让百姓生活变得更好的事，让平民百姓过上应该有的生活。他凭着自己执政的权力，从1999到2024贪污至少数十亿美金或更多百姓的财产。他让平民百姓受到了非常不公平的待遇跟灾难性的生活。他是个非常邪恶的人，用着自己的特别身份，做着对圭亚那无数伤害的事件，只为了自己的利益。他在中国还有一笔巨额全额高达数十亿美元，都来自于百姓的财产。今天希望大家都能看到或听到他的腐败的一面，让我们一起团结一心，让圭亚那的人民重新开始美好的未来。
Agree with you 100% there, Lincoln Lewis.
Yeah.
The man who has dedicated himself decades of doing what he does. Thank you so much for your service to the nation and service to humanity. Your closing remarks, please, Mr. Tallman is no stranger to us here on 107.1 FM. Sir?
I'm just honored again to be on with Mr. Lincoln Lewis again. I mean, I really enjoyed listening to his perspective. I mean, a lot of insight there, a lot of wisdom there. Really great, man. Thanks again for letting me be on. And, you know, from my perspective, you know, I think at first everyone's really upset and they get a little worried about what's going on in the United States. But I can tell you, I have a little different experience with our government. I've dealt with so many different aspects of it. Our government, our style of government is very, very unique because our private sector meshes with our public sector in ways to make us sort of a hybrid type of entity where it's very hard to go after just the government aspect to make something happen. You really have to get in on the private sector. And then we talk about the local level of politics and the state level. When you think about it, we're 50 states. What we really are 50 countries bound together as one republic. 50 nations is what we are, really. And the way you know that is California has the #4 economy in the world. The economy of California is bigger than the entire nation of Japan's economy. Okay, so we have 50 nations that have bound together to be one republic. And with all those states that are basically nation states, we have governors, we have basically parliaments, right? House of Representatives and Senates. We have local level governments. We have sheriff's offices. And then on top of that, we have the private sector, which meshes with all of this, not only on a local level, but a regional level, a national level, and a multinational, international level as well. So when you take all of that into account and you look at the office of the presidency and the federal government and the executive branch, we're not even talking about the legislative branch. We also have our judicial branch. We also have our military. I could go on, but the point is, we are a massive entity with many, many facets and many, many levels all over the place. And so for any one man to try to wield it all, to make it happen, to make it all go one way, it's almost impossible. It's virtually impossible. And so there is a lot of talk coming from Donald Trump. He does talk a good game. But if you look at his last presidency, the only thing he really accomplished was he got tax breaks for the people he got tax breaks for. That was his huge accomplishment. Everything else was piecemeal. He really didn't complete anything. He really didn't accomplish much other than that. And so I'm looking at present day, he hasn't become a better politician. He doesn't have more control over our government than he did before. So what is he going to be able to accomplish? I don't know if he's going to be able to accomplish that much. Okay. And especially because the Democrats are aligned and they're ready to fight him on every inch of this thing, on every level. So it's going to be very, very, very difficult, I believe, for him to get anything done. I think what people need to really realize is where he's going to go in is where he feels like he's not going to get pushback, where he thinks he can get an easy win. And so for the people of Guyana, for Americans who are listening, if you mobilize, if you organize, if you show that you're not giving up an inch without fighting, without being verbal about it, I'm telling you, he probably is going to pass you on and move on to something else that's a lot easier to deal with, eat and swallow. Okay. So I think that's the lesson learned here. And I think that's what people should know, is that it's not so easy to just do whatever you think you want to do in the United States of America. It's a lot harder than you know. It's a lot harder than you would believe. And because of that, Donald Trump is only going to go after easy targets. So don't make yourself an easy target. Mobilize, organize, talk to your neighbors, make sure that you're all on the same page, and make sure that the world knows that you are focused and you're not giving up an inch without fighting every day, all day long. I think that's the best defense. And I think it will work if people will do it.
Today, I'd like to talk about the harm and disastrous impact the current Vice President of Guyana, Bharat Jagdeo, has brought upon the people of Guyana. Everything he has done has been for his own benefit, never thinking about the well-being of the people or taking any action to improve their lives. Instead of helping the common people live a decent life, he has abused his power from 1999 to 2024 to embezzle at least billions of dollars of public funds, possibly even more. The ordinary people have suffered from unfair treatment and a disastrous quality of life because of him. He's a truly corrupt and evil person, using his special status to commit countless harmful acts against Guyana, all for his own gain. He even has a massive fortune in China, worth billions of dollars, all taken from the people's wealth. Today, I hope everyone becomes aware of his corruption. Let's come together, unite, and help the people of Guyana start a new chapter for a better future.
今天想跟大家一起了解现在的圭亚那副总统巴拉特贾格迪奥所对圭亚那人民带来的伤害跟灾难性的造成。他所做的一切都是为了自己的利益，从来没有为圭亚那百姓着想，或者做出任何能让百姓生活变得更好的事，让平民百姓过上应该有的生活。他凭着自己执政的权力，从1999到2024贪污至少数十亿美金或更多百姓的财产。他让平民百姓受到了非常不公平的待遇跟灾难性的生活。他是个非常邪恶的人，用着自己的特别身份做着对圭亚那无数伤害的事件，只为了自己的利益。他在中国还有一笔巨额全额高达数十亿美元，都来自于百姓的财产。今天希望大家都能看到或听到他的腐败的一面，让我们一起团结一心，让圭亚那的人民重新开始美好的未来。
So much, Tom. It will work. Organized, mobilized, and fight. You can't give up. It is politics. These things are expected. Do not lose sleep. Lots of calls. I know you've gotten lots of calls, Lincoln, lots of calls coming from Tom as well, but you cannot give up, guys. This is what the struggle is all about. One day might be for you, the next day might be for your opponent, but you cannot give up. How many of you have given up? How many of you believe in giving up? And when you're just about there to taste the victory, that is when you decide that you're going to give up. Some of us have been placed in situations that have been the trials and tribulations, excruciatingly painful positions, and never give up. Do not give up. Mandela hasn't given up for all those years he spent there. He never gave up. Our ancestors, our African ancestors, never give up. 400 plus years of slavery, forced labor, forced slavery that was able to build this entire America and other parts of the world that Donald Trump doesn't have any respect for. Donald Trump and his folks came from Germany and wherever. His folks came from Germany as immigrants, probably illegal immigrants as well. And they met an America that was built with the sweat and the blood of forced African laborers, forced individuals who were brought to America. And when they came to America, guess what? There were people already here. The American Indians were already here. So we might as well all consider ourselves immigrants. And some, even people who look like Donald Trump, might be millions upon millions of them, are also illegal immigrants in the United States of America. But like Tom said, you've got to stand strong. And Lincoln said, you've got to mobilize and don't let force people back you into a corner and make you become timid and you're trembling and you're worrying what's going to happen. This too, my brothers and sisters, shall pass. Hold your government accountable. Hold your president accountable. Hold those individuals in Guyana accountable. Enough is enough. Don't let people drive fear into you. Have a good night, guys. We'll be back tomorrow, right here, same place, same time. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Lincoln. Thank you both for all that you do for humanity. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Tom,
Amen. Take
people
care. Good night.
People should go on your blog. Give them a reminder. Let them go. They got to support your blog, meaning go and read it and share it. Give them that information, please, Tom.
Yeah, it's Thomas Anderson's Power Portrait. I'm at Substack there. I'm also on YouTube and also on X, Twitter, at LastGovWatch. So check me out in any of those places.
LastGovWatch. You're an X. Gosh.
Yeah, man.
Good. Thank you so much. Village Voice newspaper, go over, read what's going on in the Village Voice, support the Village Voice. If you got to give a donation to the Village Voice, the button is right there. Donate. It's time to fight back and be responsible also. I'm out of here, guys. I'm out of here. Fight back. Later, Tom. Later, Lincoln.
Take care.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. Now I'm calling all conscious people, all conscious youth and youth. So keep on listening. I know the Reverend come, but that's strictly culture, man.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome one day.
That's why me cry. White have a right, black have a right. Don't have to stop pressure win because we never trouble you. Come on. White have a right, black have a right. Don't have to stop pressure win because we never trouble you. Come on. Hear me, brethren, you hear me higher. You ever stop and think about Martin Luther, who make black people free to walk to America? They kill him just streams a freedom fighter. Chuck, hear me, brethren, you hear me higher. I wonder if you remember Marcus Messiah. Jamaica is the first, forerunner. Babylon claim said that them catch him a fire and bring back him ashes to Jamaica. Be sure black people say we still under pressure. Chuck.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome one day. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome one day.
That's why me cry. White have a right, black have a right. Don't have to stop pressure with because we never trouble you. Come on. White have a right, black have a right. Don't have to stop pressure with because we never trouble you.
I'd like to talk about the harm and disastrous impact the current Vice President of Guyana, Bharat Jagdeo, has brought upon the people of Guyana. Everything he has done has been for his own benefit, never thinking about the well-being of the people or taking any action to improve their lives. Instead of helping the common people live a decent life, He has abused his power from 1999 to 2024 to embezzle at least billions of dollars of public funds, possibly even more. The ordinary people have suffered from unfair treatment and a disastrous quality of life because of him. He's a truly corrupt and evil person, using his special status to commit countless harmful acts against Guyana, all for his own gain. He even has a massive fortune in China, worth billions of dollars, all taken from the people's wealth. Today, I hope everyone becomes aware of his corruption. Let's come together, unite, and help the people of Guyana start a new chapter for a better future.
今天想跟大家一起了解现在的圭亚那副总统巴拉特贾格迪奥所对圭亚那人民带来的伤害跟灾难性的造成。他所做的一切都是为了自己的利益，从来没有为圭亚那百姓着想，或者做出任何能让百姓生活变得更好的事，让平民百姓过上应该有的生活。他凭着自己执政的权力，从1999到2024贪污至少数十亿美金或更多百姓的财产。他让平民百姓受到了非常不公平的待遇跟灾难性的生活。他是个非常邪恶的人，用着自己的特别身份做着对圭亚那无数伤害的事件，只为了自己的利益。他在中国还有一笔巨额全额高达数十亿美元，都来自于百姓的财产。今天希望大家都能看到或听到他的腐败的一面，让我们一起团结一心，让圭亚那的人民重新开始美好的未来。
今天想跟大家一起了解现在的圭亚那副总统巴拉特贾格迪奥所对圭亚那人民带来的伤害跟灾难性的造成。他所做的一切都是为了自己的利益，从来没有为圭亚那百姓着想，或者做出任何能让百姓生活变得更好的事，让平民百姓过上应该有的生活。他凭着自己执政的权力，从1999到2024贪污至少数十亿美金或更多百姓的财产。他让平民百姓受到了非常不公平的待遇跟灾难性的生活。他是个非常邪恶的人，用着自己的特别身份做着对圭亚那无数伤害的事件，只为了自己的利益。他在中国还有一笔巨额全额高达数十亿美元，都来自于百姓的财产。今天希望大家都能看到或听到他的腐败的一面，让我们一起团结一心，让圭亚那的人民重新开始美好的未来。